Alrighty then, here we go. We are going to use walnut stain. I like the darker rifles, so I'm going to do it undiluted. Get through these child-proof containers. And they recommend doing a test area. Well, like I said, I like the darker stains, so I'm not going to do a test area. Starting to think I probably should have used a brush. Here, I know what I'll do. Somewhere around here. There we go. That'll probably work better. Oh yeah. I don't know how well you can see that, but I'm going to go ahead and let it dry now, and we'll go from there. Okay, what we're on now is, after I applied 2 coats of the walnut stain, I used a liberal amount of the True Oil and let that dry for 24 hours. Okay, what I'm going to do now is, using the True Oil and some wet dry sandpaper, this happens to be 400 grit, I'm going to, starting in small areas, the book says, you know, don't do anything more than a 4x4, basically you want to keep it wet, and I'm going to wet sand the stock. And you want to do this in a circular motion, because what you're trying to do is, you can't see it on the camera, but there are real small scratches, little dents in the wood grain and stuff, and by wet sanding this, it'll make like a slurry and will help fill in those small areas. I'll show you real quick what I'm referring to, and then I'll go ahead and do it because it's kind of boring, tedious work, but it will definitely help the final product in the end. One thing you do not want to do is do not allow it to dry out. Like I said, you are wet sanding it, so you definitely want to keep it wet. If it starts drying, just apply a little bit more oil. And after you've sanded it down to where you, or wet sanded it to where you feel pretty pleased, then simply take a lint-free, which I like using these shop towels because they're relatively lint-free, and wipe it off across the grain. That way it'll still keep that little bit of slurry in the grains. So you just wet yourself an area. keeping it wet. And you can actually hear it working. You can see the slurry starting to show up. And yes, you do want to use your fingers on this part of it so that you can follow the contour of the weapon. Okay, and just to show you, the camera should be able to pick up where I've wet sanded and where I have not. This is definitely a lot smoother. I will probably end up doing this a couple of times. As you can see, I've done up to here now. And that's where you start getting a good look on the grain. A lot of the little cracks and dings and scratches fill in, and it's just a lot smoother, where this is still quite rough. Alrighty then, welcome back. This is now 24 hours later again. And as you can see, I hope it's coming out in the camera, this stock is looking pretty darn nice for the shape it was in. Now, what I have on here right now is the True Oil. What I did is I did 2 wet sandings, 2 days ago, with 400 grit wet dry sandpaper. Then yesterday I did 2 sandings with, using that oil, with 4-odd steel wool, ultra-fine steel wool, and let it dry overnight. What I'm going to do now is rub it down a little bit with a tack-free or a lint-free rag and make sure there's no excess oil on it. And then the final step in this process is the stock sheen and conditioner. And I really didn't mean this to be a product review, but I guess I'm going to say that when it comes to redoing a stock, I got to give definite kudos to this kit right here. I mean, for $15, I am getting a really nice finish. Lot nicer than I thought I was going to get. So I give a thumbs up to the Birchwood Casey guys. I'm extremely pleased with your product, having never used it before. Or, actually for that matter, I've never used any stock refinishing kit. Normally, any stocks I've redone in the past, I've simply removed the old stain or the old clear coat off them, sanded them down, put some new stain on them, and then did a spray varathane finish on one. I think I rubbed a varathane finish on the other one. And they look really good, but I'm not happy with the varathane. It tends to yellow over time and will actually start lifting off the wood. So I don't recommend doing that unless you're in a real bind and you just got to get something on a rifle. So anyway, I'm going to get set up and get ready to do the final phase. What it suggests you do with this one is it's got to be thoroughly dry. Lightly polish this finish in until it's dry, and then buff it with a clean cloth. Now that's step 2 and 3, and it says if you're not happy, you can continue to repeat step 2 and 3 until you get the luster and shine you're after. So I'm going to give that a try.